You were addicted to the money.
Exactly. It's like a user. When you on drugs, you gotta have it. A drug dealer, when you don't have drugs, you gotta get the money. Like you gotta get it. Like if you're a user because you want the money, but like that's over with for me. Like I said, like it's just I went through too much, but it took me so long to learn and realize. But
We are about to watch the 2024 parole hearing of a man who was given a 22-year sentence as an habitual offender for being a dealer. But before we watch the 2024 hearing, we're going to take a blast to the past to his 2021 hearing with good old Mr. O'Shea. With that, let's jump in.
Charles Nelson, DOC number 369630. You're a fourth class offender. Parole eligibility date 5/19/2021. Not eligible for good time. Full term date 11/19/2037 on a 22-year sentence. Possession of intent to distribute cocaine, habitual offender. Possession of intent to distribute heroin and hydrocodone. Possession of alprazolam, and simple criminal damage to property. Sentenced on 3/21/2016. Does that sound correct?
Yes, sir.
Why would you please answer Mr. Alvin Roche's questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Nelson. How are you?
I'm all right. How you doing, sir?
Good. Mr. Nelson, you're currently 42 years old,
Yes, sir.
and you've been incarcerated since what, 205?
205.
Actually, 215.
Yes, sir.
Okay. 215. You have a 22-year sentence, and you were very fortunate because the judge ran all your offenses concurrently. You would have had a 56-year sentence if it was running consecutively. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And at the age of 36, 37 years old, you were convicted of your fourth felony.
Yes, sir.
Tell me what was going on.
Well, what was really going on, I was living the wrong lifestyle, and I had been living that lifestyle all my life, and there's no excuse about it. And now this time here, I've been incarcerated. God done really changed my life and like really opened my eyes to reality, what I really didn't understand. And like that lifestyle there, I'm done with it now. Because that's the reason why I always come to jail, why I've been in this trouble all this time. And like I said, I thank God for changing my life, and that experiencing God class I was in, I was a lead over the till and going through cleansing screening and going through NA, all that helped me. And plus with God, and it just changed my whole life and my whole outlook of life.
So in the last 5.5 years, you've recognized the ways of life that you lived prior to being arrested was completely out of order, and you've started to make a 180-degree turnaround.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me about your disciplinary record. How many disciplinary write-ups have you had in 5.5 years?
I ain't had none. I had one little local write-up in 2016.
Okay. So one is not none.
That's why I had to catch myself. That was a low court, but I got to tell you the truth.
What was it for?
It was for like a little. I was asleep one morning, and the lady woke me up, and then she just wrote me out.
Okay. Tell me about your program since you've been incarcerated.
Well, experiencing God, that was like a good class for me.
Tell me about your good time classes.
That was the only classes I've been in, and I ain't getting no good time from, because like when I was at Winfield, they didn't have good time under the program, and when they decided to, like, whenever they was finna change the system and get the good time on it, I ended up they changed it to an ICE program, and we all got shipped. So
Right. So you telling me that an offender who's a fourth class offender convicted of 4 felonies, who has a variety of 7 different drug charges, and you've not had any substance abuse treatment in 6 years.
I was in NA too.
Sir, have you received any organized, approved DOC substance abuse programs?
I was working for the chaplain. He was over the program. Chaplain Woodard, Jerry Woodard. That's who was over it. I don't know.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, were you in the program?
Yes, sir. I was a leader on the tip.
Okay, give me the name of the program.
Experiencing God. One of the programs was Experiencing God. One of them was cleansing screening. Then one of them was NA, and then I went through Kairos.
NA are meetings. They're not treatment.
Oh, okay.
They're meetings where each and every participant supports one another. It gives you a chance to recognize that you are an addict,
Right.
and it gives you a chance to get support. It is not treatment.
Oh.
My question was, have you had any organized treatment program since you've been incarcerated?
No,
Yes or no?
No, sir. Because the places I was at, I guess they ain't have them.
Okay. Now, tell me what your job at Riverbend is.
I ain't been here but like 3 weeks. I don't have a job.
So you're still under quarantine?
They just put me straight in the dorm. We ain't
So
go
you
through.
didn't have to go through quarantine.
No, sir.
So for the last 3 weeks, what have you done?
And I really read my Bible a lot, really, and to stay out of trouble. Ain't too much else I can do.
Okay.
No.
1 second, sir. And before Riverbend, you were at Jackson Parish Prison, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And before that, you was at Jackson Correctional Center.
Yes, sir.
And then you were at Richland Detention Center.
Yes, sir.
And then at Wynn.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, did you request any programming at your last 4 or 5 facilities?
Well, when I left Winfield, when I got to Rayville, which is Richland Parish, I requested to get in the welding program. So that's why I got shipped to Jonesboro, which is Jackson Parish. And when I got over there, I got in the class when I got there in November. So they said the class is going to start in January the 13th. So I went through the process. I got in the class, and out the blue, like I probably stayed in the class 2 or 3 weeks, and the lady over there took me out the class, so I had too much time.
Okay. So you've had no real rehabilitative programs. Tell me about your transition plan. Where do you plan to live? Where do you plan to work?
I plan to stay by my mom and Slide out. And my mom's husband got me a job lined up with a guy in Bow Brothers that he used to work for.
Good, good. Great company. Okay. Tell us why we should vote to release you when you have approximately 16 years left on your sentence.
Well, I will not mess up no more. Y'all will not be doing the wrong thing. Y'all won't regret it. And like I said, God done changed my life, and all I want to do is try to be an encouragement and give anybody else advice to help them in any kind of way that I can in a positive way.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions.
Paz?
Yeah, sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you aware of the detainer with St. Charles Parish for possession of marijuana, third offense?
No, ma'am.
I just wanted to make you aware that it was something, it was issued 8/13 of 2013. They still want you. I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Wow.
St. Charles Parish Court. Yes, what the is possession of marijuana, third offense. I just want to make you aware of that. That's all I had. Mr. Roche did an excellent job. He covered everything I was thinking of asking.
All right, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
I thank y'all for your time today. And I will be really pleased and happy if y'all will to release me and give me another chance. And y'all won't regret it and I won't mess up.
All right, thank you, sir. Is the panel prepared to vote?
Yes,
Mr. Alvin Roche?
Mr. Chairman, based on Mr. Nelson's lack of rehabilitative programming, especially long-term substance abuse, law enforcement, a poor supervision history, an extensive criminal background, being a fourth felony offender, I will deny his request.
Unfortunately, Mr. Nelson, I'll concur with Mr. Roche. My vote is to deny for the reasons stated. And let me encourage you to just make yourself a piss and just write and ask to get put in programs. Just keep writing in there. I know with this COVID, it's really been a trying time, but take advantage of it. The judge gave you 22 years for a reason. Good luck to you, sir, but my vote is to deny.
All right, Jeff, 2 votes to deny your parole. I'm also going to vote to deny your parole for law enforcement opposition. You need programming or supervision history. So 3 votes to deny today. Your parole's been denied. Thank you. It's 9:03. We'll adjourn at Riverbend. Thank you.
I didn't really expect Mr. Roche to grant. I think he was going to deny no matter what. Interesting how he said, you got lucky. The judge could have locked you away for much longer. And we do have his appeal. He was going to go to trial. They waited for jury selection, and then he took a plea deal, and he seemed to be surprised by what the judge threw down. But before we go into those details, let's fast forward to July 23rd, 2024. It's a new parole board, and guess who shows up to say that he shouldn't get out? Our very own Randy Meyer. With that, let's jump in.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. What's your name, ma'am?
Lieutenant Kathy Townsend.
Lieutenant Kathy Hamilton. Okay. Ms. Hamilton, while we have you on, is there anything you could tell us about the offender?
Well, he's never had any write-ups. When he does class, he pays attention in class really good. He is currently enrolled in risk management phases 1 and 2. We've never had no problems.
Okay.
He's very respectful, very polite.
Yeah,
Sir, I run the law library and Zoom court here.
okay. Thank you, ma'am. You can put him back on now.
You're welcome.
Okay. Charles, can you give me your name and DOC number for the record?
Charles Nelson, 369630.
Okay, Mr. Nelson. Today we're here for your parole hearing. I'm gonna read some preliminary information into the record. After I'm finished reading that information, I'm gonna allow you to make your statement, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, listen to what I'm saying and make sure everything's correct. Your name is Charles Nelson, DOC number 369630. You are a 4th offender. You have a parole date of 5/19/21, a good time date of 6/7/37, and a full term date of November 19, 2037. You're serving a total of 22 years for habitual offender, P. Weird cocaine, possession with intent to distribute heroin, possession with intent to distribute hydrocodone, and then they habitually offended you. Does that information sound correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I have been assigned your case, so I'm going to ask you the questions today, Mr. Nelson, and then we will let Mr. Randall Myers, who is here in opposition, ADA for Jefferson Parish. We'll let him comment and then we'll vote. We'll let my other members ask questions, then we'll vote. Okay, Mr. Nelson, how long have you served on this 22-year sentence?
8 years, 8 months, and 23 days as of today.
Okay, how much? Okay, and how old are you?
46.
And your educational level?
I have a GED.
You got it while in prison?
On my last incarceration. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, Charles, go on and tell me what happened. Why were you dealing drugs and what was going on, and why should we let you out today?
Well, it started when I was young. At age of 12 years old, I started selling drugs. And I said, that's the worst decision I made in my life because it kind of ruined my life. It was like we was going through hard times, my family and I. But like when I made that decision, it's just like that lifestyle have a life of its own. And I realized that this time incarcerated that was the worst choice and decision I ever made in life. That's why I'm going through I went through all the things I went through and why I'm at where I'm at today. But I made the decision, and like since I've been incarcerated, not to participate in none of that no more, because it's too hurtful and painful to everybody, my family and myself. And it's like making that choice and decision, it ain't good for nobody. And it just, when I went back and looked at my life, that was caused all the problems I went through to this day, dealing drugs. And if I wouldn't have never made them choices or decision, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And that's why I can't do that no more. And like, if I want to be participating in that again, it's like, it's a lot of drug dealing while you're incarcerated. And I choose to stay away from everything because I just regret that decision now. And like, I can't do that no more. I don't want to go through this no more.
All right. So you said you started selling at 12. Did you ever use?
I smoked the weed.
Okay, anything ever heavier than weed?
A little pain pill I started in 2000. And that's it.
Have you ever been to treatment for drugs?
No, sir.
You taking any classes that talk about drugs or try to keep you away from drugs? Or you NA or AA?
I did substance abuse phase 1 and 2 when I was at Riverbend Correctional Center. They talked about drugs, and I did parenting and anger management, and like that was the only classes they got here. And they got I'm currently in risk management right now, but like I'm the only classes that's at this facility when I met him. When I was at Riverbend, they wouldn't allow me to get in nothing but that one class. And like when you got time like this, it's hard to get in any kind of class when you be trying everybody done been, and they don't do nothing for you. Like all you could do is just try. And like knowing that my situation, I'm coming up for parole, like I hate to come in front of y'all without taking care of the business and the things I need to take care of and look like I ain't doing nothing when all you doing is trying your whole heart out and like nothing you can do if nobody don't do nothing for you. It's like it's a hard struggle.
Okay. You were living a pretty good life when you were selling drugs, huh?
I said it may look like that, but it ain't really no good life.
Yeah, I mean, first time you got busted, you was in a Volvo, and the second time you was in a Cadillac SUV. So that just sounds like to me that's pretty good life. I don't have a Volvo yet, but I'm gonna get one. Okay, and what about did you refuse commands when they arrested you?
No, sir.
Did you try to get away and run into the back of the cop car?
At the time, on my vehicle, my brakes was like, they was iron on the vehicle. So I tried to stop, but by it being like rubbing iron, and it had no choice but to kind of run into it a little bit.
You've got a pretty bad supervision history. It's like your probation's been revoked 3 times, parole once, and 1 unsatisfactory termination. You got 5 children. Do you see your children?
I have 4. I see them, yes, sir.
Okay. How often do you talk to them?
I talked to some like yesterday. I talk to them currently. Try to talk to them like once a week at least.
Let's see. Where you gonna live?
I'm going to move in Slidell by my mom.
Okay. Where you gonna work?
I'm gonna work for Carrollton at the seafood place. My nephew, the manager, I'm gonna be a like forklift driver.
Okay. How you gonna stay sober? Stay away from drugs.
I ain't gonna participate in none of that. And if y'all want me to go to any kind of classes or AA meetings or Drug Dealers Anonymous, I'm willing to participate in anything to keep me on the right track. Because I don't want to participate in nothing wrong no more. I regret all the decisions and choices I made because it's like it hurt me to this day.
You know, and I put down here that you didn't take many programs, but most programs wasn't offered to you. Looks like over time you took victim accountability, I believe. You took risk management 1 and 2, parenting and anger management.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what did you learn from a victim accountability? Do you realize you were making victims out of people?
Yes, sir. And
wouldn't want nobody dealing your kids' drugs, would you?
No, sir. I hate I did that. That's like I said, that choice and decision. Like I was young, but then like it took me up until 37 when I come to jail this time. Like I realized I was tired of that lifestyle, and like I made a lot of wrong choices, and I hurt a lot of people, and I hurt people's family. And like I won't want to do that to nobody no more. I want to go try to help people and encourage them and be an example, and not the example to nobody no more, but in the right way, in the right perspective.
Okay. Your custody is medium. You have 0 write-ups, which is good. Have you ever had a write-up?
No, sir.
I'm talking about this term.
No, sir. I had 1 local write-up when I was like in 15 when I was at Winfield. That was it.
Okay. All right. And you are a low risk. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Do my colleagues have any questions?
I just had one. Well, maybe. Mr. Nelson, you mentioned you've been in jail, I think you said 8 years, 8 months, and 22 days. Is this the longest period of time you've been in jail?
Yes, ma'am.
Other than this time, what was the longest amount of time you spent in jail?
My last incarceration, I did like 6.5 years.
So we talked about your lifestyle when you were on the street. Did you ever have a legal job?
Yes, ma'am.
Doing what?
One time I was a crane mechanic before I come to jail this time. I done did carpentry work. I done did paint. I kind of like know how to do a variety of things, but like that was my last current job. I was a crane mechanic, and they laid me off because I had a kidney surgery. And when I tried to go back there, our supervisor got the whole division fired.
How long did you have that job?
It was for like a year before I had the kidney removed.
And you were still selling drugs?
Yes, ma'am. But like I said, when I got incarcerated this time, I realized like that lifestyle have a life of its own. And like I said, that was the worst choice and decision I ever made in life that pertain to dealing drugs. And like, I can't afford it. I can't do it no more. I would not do it no more. I just, I was young, I guess. And like, I made the wrong decision.
You were addicted to the money.
Exactly. It's like a user. When you on drugs, you gotta have it. A drug dealer, when you don't have drugs, you gotta get the money. Like you gotta get it. Like if you're a user because you want the money, but like that's over with for me. Like I said, like it's just I went through too much, but it took me so long to learn and realize. But I thank God today I don't realize it and I understand, and I won't make them
Right.
choice decisions no more.
All right. I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Prater, you have any questions?
Mr. Nelson, have you ever been arrested for a violent crime?
No, sir.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay. We only have one speaker today, and that is Mr. Randall Myers. Mr. Myers. Like you froze.
Sir.
Sorry, I think I'm here now.
Can you y'all now?
Yeah, y'all hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
What do you say?
Okay, sorry. We're opposed to this time. He's extensive criminal record with a 15-year history of drug offenses. He's only served 8 of his 22 years sentence, and his supervision record has been poor. He was last denied because of lack of programs. He stated why he hasn't taken sufficient programming since. And maybe he can get some help getting into some additional programs. But a big concern I have is his comment that he would go to substance abuse if y'all want him to. He needs to want to go. I think he needs long-term substance abuse before he can be considered for parole. So for those reasons, we're opposed.
Okay. All right. All right. Is the panel ready to vote?
I am.
Okay. I'll go first today since you were my case. Mr. Nelson, you gave a very good interview. You're very intelligent, man. Of course, you had to be if you was handling those kind of drugs and dealing and stuff. Pretty smart fella is what I'm trying to tell you. And I kind of believe that you are maybe past your drug dealing days. But the simple problem I got is you haven't done but 8.5 years on a 22-year sentence. And we got to get you some more programs. So I'm gonna request that we get you moved to a place with programs. But at this time, my vote is to deny. Mr. Prater?
John?
Sir.
Feel like that you did give a really good interview. You sound very sincere. Been in 8 years on a 22-year sentence. I gotta think, since you've not committed any violent crimes and you've served this amount of your time, I'm willing to give you a chance. I'm willing to grant.
Okay. Ms. Renatson?
All right, Mr. Nelson. I enjoyed hearing you speak. I know sometimes we hear pretty canned responses where people tell us what they think we want to hear because others have coached them in that regard. I don't think that's the case in your case. I do believe that you would benefit from some substance abuse treatment, as the DA has said, inpatient long-term substance abuse treatment, because you need to learn why you were addicted to the money. You may have not been a addicted drug user, but you do have an addiction that you need to deal with. I would go along with Mr. Prater. My vote would be to grant your parole, but only after completion of the Steve Hoyle substance abuse treatment program.
Thank you.
That would be my vote.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. 2 out of 3 votes. That's enough to get you paroled today. You make darn sure you go to Steve Hall and pass that class, so that'll get you unparoled. Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, man. All right.
Yes, sir.
Good luck.
Oh, closing out, there at, right? Yeah, 10:43.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I felt good about this. I felt good that he was granted parole. I love that it was the sheriff that did it. We are so accustomed to the sheriff department says no parole. They have a blanket statement. And actually, the sheriff, and we call him the sheriff because he was the sheriff for basically his whole career until becoming a parole board member and an outspoken one at that, maybe some say controversial. I heard him say at a parole hearing like last week when he was reading that the sheriff's department or the police department says no, and he said, but they say no every time. He actually went out and said this, and in my opinion, as a blanket statement, it doesn't hold any weight. And I love that he said that as well, because we've been saying that all along. You can't be a police station and have a blanket statement of no parole. That just shows what they're thinking or not thinking at all, and it's insane. I mean, we see people who have been truly locked up for far too long, for far too little, and need to get out. And you hear the sheriff department says they object to his parole, and it's insanity. And I'm so glad that Mr. Prater thinks outside the box. It says a lot about him, in my opinion. And he asked, "Do you have any violent offenses?" He said no. And from what we see, no, he does not. And frankly, you know what? Yes, he should get out. He should get out, in my opinion. He's been serving 8 years, 8 months, and 22 days. How rare is it even to have an inmate come up and say exactly to the day how long they've been serving? I've always assumed before watching these parole hearings it'd be something you'd hear more often, but you don't hear it that often. And if anyone should get out, Randy's like saying, he had a couple of points. He made the mistake of saying, I'll take whatever programs you want me to take instead of having a plan and this and that. But the Steve Hoyle's going to help him create that foundation, or at least know what to say if he had to go on a hearing again. And I think he's going to do okay. I do. And I'm sick and tired of seeing roaches, chomos, that get 2-year, 3-year sentences. People that actually cause tremendous bodily harm get these little sentences. Yeah, it's a serious crime to do possession with intent to distribute. But 8 years, 8 months, and 22 days, and having a stellar record in prison and seemingly trying to do what you want to do is that's enough to get out. I thought he actually aged well. I thought he looked better in the second one than he did in the first one. Man, Randy. I do appreciate Randy showing up to all his hearings. It says a lot about him too, but I don't think he should have denied this one. But I hear it's, it's a long sentence. Now this is and also Miss Renata, I felt like she was touched. It's got her on the screen there a few times. I think she was actually personally touched, and she's tough. She's sometimes gonna have a heart of steel, but I thought she was touched by his answers about being a father and talking to his kids once a week, and and he did seem genuine. It felt genuine. Like it was. I like that they brought up. A lot of people come in and say what they think you want to say. They kind of have it scripted, so they know. And he didn't do that. They didn't feel he did that. I'd have to trust them on this one. Facts and procedural history. Also, do you think what I was doing with Randy? I thought that was funny. I'm in that kind of mood. Okay. In this case, Mr. Nelson's convictions resulted from his guilty plea circumstances around the offense were not fully developed at a trial. Here, the records reflect that on about January 3rd, 2013, Mr. Nelson, am I in the wrong? No, I'm not in the right thing. Why 2013? Mr. Nelson knowingly and intentionally possessed with the intent to distribute Pepsi and knowingly or intentionally possessed the Magic Dragon. On March 22nd, 2013, the Jefferson Parish District Attorney filed a bill of information charging Mr. Nelson with possession of intent to distribute Pepsi. Now, in the arraignment in 2013, Mr. Nelson pled not guilty. Thereafter, Nelson filed an omnibus motion seeking suppression of evidence, statements, and identification. And this is interesting because I don't know, but he's sitting in jail because it's not going to be prison for 3 years. I guess just filing motions and whatnot. And on March 21st, 2016, I guess things didn't go his way. So pursuant to a negotiated plea agreement, Mr. Nelson withdrew his not guilty pleas and entered a plea of guilty as charged in all 3 counts. You know, this DA was not giving up. They were not playing ball with him. They're like, no, we're getting you for 3 years filing motions. And but no, they said, okay, you know what, we'll do a plea deal. So he pled guilty to 3 counts, and let's see. And then following the recitation by the state, Mr. Nelson indicated he understood the agreement, a factual basis of plea, on the same date after accepting Mr. Nelson's guilty pleas as having been knowingly, intelligently, freely, and voluntarily made. The trial court sentenced Mr. Nelson to 1 count, 15 years imprisonment in hard labor, the first 2 years to be served without benefit of parole. So that's like, you know, pretty, I mean, that's in the legislation. It's not up to the judge. So 15 years, but parole eligibility after 2. Probation or suspension of sentence. Count 2, 4 years imprisonment in hard labor. Count 3, 4 years imprisonment in hard labor. Further, the trial court ordered that each sentence was to run concurrently with one another, as well as the sentences imposed that same date. But here's the kicker. Here's where they really went for him, and I bet he had no idea. And this was the DA. I think, I'm just assuming that this was the DA getting one under him, where they went and they said, aha. On March 21st, the same day, they filed a multiple offender bill alleging Mr. Nelson to be a second felony offender, to which Mr. Nelson stipulated. The trial court then vacated the original sentence. They throw out the original sentence on count 1 and resentenced him pursuant to the multiple offender bill to 15 years imprisonment in hard labor, with the first 2 years to be served without benefit of parole, probation, or suspension of sentence, and the remainder of the sentence to be served without the benefit of probation or suspension of sentence. So I bet, again, that his attorney said, look, you'll get the 15 years. This is the plea deal, but you'll have parole eligibility after 2. You'll be out after 5, you know. And then they said, we're giving you an habitual offender, and the rest is history. Then, you know, 8 years later. But I don't know. You tell me if you think this happened or not. Mr. Nelson filed an application for post-conviction relief in 2018, with the trial court dismissed without prejudice. On supervisory review, the court vacated that. The ruling remanded the matter to the trial court that instructions construe Mr. Nelson's APCR as a timely filed request for out-of-time appeal. So, I don't know. It seems sketchy to me. I don't think they were expecting the habitual offender bill to be placed on him. Now, in the end, you might argue, okay, everything maybe worked out. He's there for basically 9 years. The Steve Hoyle program would be like 9 months, so he might almost be there for 9.5 years when it's all said and done. That's a long time. But it could be it saved his life. Hopefully he doesn't touch any of that stuff again. What do you think? Decree, for the foregoing reasons, Mr. Nelson's convictions and sentence are affirmed. We remand the matter of limited purpose of correcting the Uniform Committee in order. reflect that the restrictions of the first 2 years of Mr. Nelson's sentence is to be served without benefit, probation, or suspension of sentence, blah, blah, blah. So there it is. Now we're going to watch one more hearing before we call it a day. This is an old school commutation hearing with the full board. We have Mr. O'Shea, we have Ms. Jackson, we have Mr. Marabella, Ms. Renatza, and Mr. Freeman. It's a quickish type of hearing for a commutation hearing, but I thought we'd finish off with that. The beginning of Mr. O'Shea wasn't enough for me. Now it's not like a pure O'Shea Ms. Jackson hearing. It's actually heavy on Mr. Freeman's side, but we'll have to take it for what it is. With that, let's jump in.
All right, good afternoon. Mr. Broussard? Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, introduce yourself. Tell us your name and your DOC number, please.
My name is Leroy Broussard. My DOC number is 118045.
All right, Mr. Broussard, you're here before the pardon board this afternoon. You are seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in Acadia Parish in January of 1989 to life for a second-degree murder conviction. Mr. Broussard, is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Broussard, your case has been assigned to Mr. Pete Freeman, sitting to my far right. Would you answer his question?
I didn't understand what you said, ma'am.
Pete, your case has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer his question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how old are you, Mr. Broussard?
55.
How long have you served on this charge?
About 30-something years. I don't know exactly.
Like right around 35 years, huh? 34 years. Okay. What was your educational level?
I don't really know. I was in special ed at one time, then I got out.
You haven't tried to get your GED or anything since you've been in?
Yes, sir. I was in literacy class, but it got to where the tutors had got so much people at the table to where, they couldn't really take the time to explain stuff to me because I really didn't know. So I got out.
All right. Tell me a little bit about what happened on this night that this event occurred.
Sir, I honestly come home drinking, and I was playing some loud music, and they told me to cut the music down. And I got up in the outrage, and I killed my wife Sheila.
What kind of instrument you used to kill your wife?
A pipe wrench.
Okay. Prior to killing your wife, did you have altercation with your family also?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what happened there? Did you knock out some windows out of their car? And
yes, sir.
okay. And your wife, did you tell us what happened? Once you got her out the car, did you kill her outside? Did you bring her inside? What happened?
We went inside the house, sir.
Okay. Were you in such a rage that you were thinking about injuring your family also?
Yes, sir. I was in a rage to where I was probably would have hurt more people than that if they wouldn't have ran away.
Glad you're being honest with me. How often do you drank, Mr. Broussard? It looked like sounds like you had a pretty bad habit at that time.
I did. I really did.
How often and how much?
I drink sometimes like twice a month, and I drink a lot.
Just twice a month, though?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you and your wife have marital problems before this? Were there other times that y'all got in arguments and fights?
Yes, sir.
Had you ever put your hands on her before?
No, sir, I never hit her, but I had lady that swung an extension cord and they hit her across the neck one time.
You did what now?
I slung a extension cord that come off of a radio where you plug it in and unplug it, and swung it like that. They hit her across the neck.
But both the arguments you do over this radio, huh?
Sir?
That's okay. I noticed that the prior offense on which they didn't charge you on a radio was involved also.
Yeah, I was playing some loud music. That's what really started it off, and they told me to cut it down.
Okay. How old was your wife?
She was 15.
Okay. How long had y'all been married?
Probably about 6 months, 7 months, somewhere around up in there. I can't really remember exactly how long.
What kind of treatment have you received for your alcohol abuse?
Well, I've come in here. I got that substance abuse.
And what substance abuse?
Since I've been in here, I got substance abuse.
You attend AA meetings and A meetings?
No, sir, I haven't.
Yeah. Okay. You had an arson charge. Tell me about the arson charge.
I was drunk, running low on gas, and I stopped to siphon some gas out of a truck in between Kaplan and Gaydon, and it had a lock cover on it. So I bust a hole in the bottom of the tank with a nail, and I couldn't see because it was at night. So I struck a lighter to see what I was doing, and it went. Caught a fire.
Yeah, let's go back to your drink. I mean, you're trying to tell me you only drank 2 times a month, but it seems like everything that you've done, you were drunk. So you still want me to believe you only drank twice a month?
That's about the only time I would really, but every time I drank, sir, I got in trouble. I actually did.
Did you receive some substance abuse treatment on the outside?
I was going to Crowley Mental Health for a while. Then it got to where I had a hard time getting back and forth from Kaplan to Crowley. Then when I moved in the country, a lot of times the old car we had stayed broke.
So what was your diagnosis for your mental health?
I had I got bipolar disorder, and I had alcohol problems. I was attending AA there too.
Okay. So I mean that's it still got me hung up, but I guess I'll have to get past that. So what other classes have you taken while you've been in prison?
100 hours, anger management, substance abuse. I'm thinking for a change, and I'm in victim awareness now.
What did you learn from anger management?
I learned how to control my temper, sir.
And how are we going to control your temper?
Take a few deep breaths and think about it before you say anything.
Okay, how about victim awareness? What you learned from that?
Well, so far, this is going to be my 3rd week. So far, I learned that the people that I killed, their daughter, it's not the only victim. My family was victims as well. And other people that from the scene that had to go there to see all this horrible stuff was a victim. So it was more victims than you can imagine involved in this.
What do you do out in Angola?
Right now, I'm driving tractors for the camp.
Did you drive? You drove 18 wheelers before too?
Yes, sir.
Then why should I take a chance on me? How can you assure me that you don't go out and get drunk again and get in a fit of rage?
Sir, that I would never mess with again in life. I don't mess with it here. I don't even like the medication to give me that cloud my mind.
You have strong law enforcement opposition. Your sister Samantha is unopposed. The victim's family is very opposed. You've had 71 write-ups since you've been in prison, which is pretty high, but you hadn't had one since 2016. What happened in 2016 that all of a sudden you stopped getting write-ups?
Well, I had started learning how to pick friends that were really, that would show concern. You know, prison's a hard place to get a friend, a real friend. And I had ran across a couple of them, and they helped talk to me, show me, you know, that's not what it's about if you're trying to go home. And, you know, and they work with me every day in here. Talk to me, keep me going.
You have a low risk score, your custody is minimum. That's all the questions I have, Ms. Ramatzi.
Maribel has a question.
Mr. Broussard, tell me what your plan is to make sure, as Mr. Freeman asked, tell me what your plan is to make sure you don't get out of prison and go back to drinking. I know you told me, look, I had a drink here and I don't want it. I don't like all those substances, but what's your plan?
If I was to get out, I would get into some more classes out there. I'd get into some more classes on free time and work, do my job, and come home and maybe visit my sister or whatever, you know, that's been there with me since I've been here.
What kind of classes are you talking about? Are you talking about AA meetings or what are you talking about?
Yes, sir. AA meetings.
How familiar are you with AA?
Not really too much.
Well, you know, Mr. Broussard, you said something that really hit home. In another life, I was a judge and I ran a drug court. And you know, one of the very common phrases that alcoholics are taught in AA is that, you know, I didn't always get in trouble when I was drinking, but every time I got in trouble, I was drinking. And that's what you said. Those were the words you said. You know, I don't drink much, but every time I got in trouble, I was drinking. That's an alcoholic. You accept the fact that you're an alcoholic?
Yes, sir.
You know, there's no real fixed cure for that. And another thing that kind of bothered me is when you talked about anger management, you said, well, you take 2 deep breaths and you think about what you're doing. There's a lot more to anger management than taking a couple of deep breaths and thinking about what you're doing. So I'm just wondering if you don't believe maybe there's shortcuts here. Being an alcoholic and staying sober is not a shortcut. It's not, maybe I'll go to a couple of classes. It's going to AA meetings regularly for the rest of your life to make sure you don't get back into alcoholism. And I'm worried about you. I don't know that you're there yet. That's just a concern that I have. So, thank you.
Mr. Broussard, when this murder happened, were you under treatment at the mental health center for substance abuse?
Yes, ma'am.
You were taking medication?
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
remember what you were taking?
I was taking,
And were you compliant and taking that medicine as prescribed?
ma'am.
Were you taking that as prescribed?
No, ma'am.
So you weren't taking it or you were taking too much? What was it?
I wasn't taking them like I was supposed to.
Okay. So you just weren't taking it. I'm trying to get what you're trying to tell me. I know that and alcohol doesn't mix, but go ahead.
I would take them sometimes, and sometimes I wouldn't take them.
That day, had you taken some?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember what happened?
Some of it.
All right, Ward Ambo, is there anything you can add?
Yes, he was offered to take the TABE test to get in the GED class, but he declined in May of 2012. We do have some mental health history, and he was on depression medicine here. We do have NA and AA classes here done on the weekend. They come in, some volunteers come in from AA, Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous to teach these classes that he can get into.
That's good, thank you. All right. Mr. Broussard, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we vote?
Ma'am, the only thing I'd like to say is I appreciate y'all taking y'all time to give me a chance to express myself to this board. That's it.
All right, thank you. All right, I think we are prepared to vote. Mr. Marabella will be voting first. I'm sorry. Mr. Broussard, I apologize.
You know, Mr. Broussard, you served a long time. But I just don't have a good feeling. I don't think you're quite ready. I think you need a lot more AA meetings and you need to come to grips. And I think I would suggest to Warden Ambo, y'all reevaluate him on his mental health and see if we need to settle him in on a treatment plan and then, reapply at a later date. But today I vote to deny.
Mrs. Jackson?
Mr. Broussard, I share some of the concerns of my colleagues. It concerned me that when this happened, you weren't on your medication. And then when talking to Mr. Marabella, you said you don't even like to take medication while you're incarcerated. If you get out, you need to be on medication and you don't take it, and you start drinking, and I think we're going to have the same kind of situation come up. Also, I don't see any family here for you, and family support is very important. I think that at some point you will get a favorable recommendation, but I think there's some more work that you need to do. So I vote today to deny.
Thank you, Mr. Vershey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Broussard, bottom line, you have expressed opposition from the legal community. You have opposition from the victim's family. You refuse to take the literacy program. I think you're a risk to public safety, and you're just not ready to be released. So therefore, I will deny your request.
Mr. Attorney, Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Likewise, I'm concerned, as I expressed to you when we talked. I think you need a little more program. I think Mr. Freeman hit it right on the nose, and I think it's a good idea perhaps for you to get another evaluation, maybe to get some medication that you may need, and also to take some more AA classes. Warden indicated that there's AA meetings go on. If you were to come back before this board and I was still here and you'd have a good plan to stay sober, a good plan to stay on your medication, it's likely I'd vote for it. You've done okay while you've been here, but I think you need more help than you realize. So I'm going to ask you to do a little more work, and as soon as you get some of those things under your belt, apply again. Because if I'm still on the board and you've done those things, I would vote favor. But today is not that day. Today I would vote to deny.
All right, Mr. Broussard, so you've received 4 votes that were not favorable, but with encouragement, you got some more work to do. So your application for clemency today has been denied, but go to work and reapply when you can. Good luck to you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have anything to unpack this. There are no, appeals. There's nothing that Richard was able to find on this. And, it was a Mr. Pete Freeman hearing, so you're not going to get anything. He's still locked up. That's the information that we do have. Yeah, it was a Mr. Freeman interview, so you're not going to get much. But what I did get was, I think, what a lot of the board got, which were like the hibby-jibbies. There's something unsettling about the interview. It's interesting because it's like, well, in one sense, he's being really honest. But in the other sense, it's like the honesty that is unsettling. I wonder what the alcohol thing, I almost do believe him. Maybe he didn't drink that much, but it was more like being all, but there was one signal that I picked up that, and I know I'm only, I don't claim to be an expert. I claim to be probably wrong a lot of the times, or most of the time. But there's certain things that make me say, wow, a psychopath or a sociopath, or, like, can this person actually feel? And then there was one part of it where he starts talking about the victims, and he breaks down emotionally. But when I take a step back and I look at it, it seems like an unnatural place to break down. He broke down specifically when he was talking about the first responders, what they would go through coming to the scene. It wasn't about his family. It wasn't about the crime. And that just made me think again, it's my own, take it for what it is, which is nothing, that maybe that was an act, because it just didn't make sense. It's like, why there? Why would you choose to break down? Why would you break down at that point? Now, I mean, I could be overthinking it and maybe whatever, but I'm just trying to make sense of the idea that it seemed that we were watching someone who just gave you that hibby-jibbies, and then how is it possible that someone like that could have empathy? So then I come to the conclusion that it was just part of the skit. But I don't have anything else to add about this crime. It is what it is, and if he does come up for another hearing, we will cover it. This hearing initially took place in 2022, October, and at the time of this recording, it's July of 2024. So it's been a little while, and he's young, relatively speaking. He's 57, so he's gonna have plenty of opportunities. And if he comes up again, I'll let you know. And with that, I'll let you go.